Hey, have you heard of A Course in Miracles and you always want to know more about it? Well, stick around because today it's all about A Course in Miracles. Hey, if you've been on any kind of spiritual path for any amount of time, you must have run across either references to or quotes from A Course in Miracles, either from Marianne Williamson or Eckhart Tolle or Neale Donald Walsh. All of those incredible teachers reference A Course in Miracles consistently and always. And there is a really good reason why they do. We're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, I want to say welcome to my channel. My name is Max Ryan. I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm also intuitive. And this channel is all about helping you to really trust the truth of who you are, gain tools and understandings of true spiritual awakening. So if that's something that you're interested in, then please, I'd ask you to subscribe if it feels right to you. I'd really appreciate that. And hit the bell for sure so you get the notifications. All right, so here's the deal. Let's talk. I have been a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles for 38 years. I know, you're like, how old is that guy? Well, I was introduced to A Course in Miracles when I was about 18 years old, and I know this isn't really about me because I want to get into this, but just kind of give you a background that I've been studying this for a long time, and there's a reason why. I was taken to a group meeting when I was in college. A friend of mine said, we talk about spiritual stuff, and it's this woman's apartment, and it's really great, and so I went one night, and it was an apartment in West Hollywood, and it was Marianne Williamson, before she became Marianne Williamson. She hadn't even finished that Return to Love yet. So from there on, I started to study, and I started to read, and I started to work and volunteer. This is during the AIDS crisis. And so it captured my heart. And before that, I had studied a lot of spiritual paths, such as Buddhism, and I was raised Catholic, and Wiccan philosophies, all different things I had studied for a very long time. And then when the Course in Miracles came into my life, something in me said, oh, this is it. For me. So I'm just going to show you. This is my copy of A Course in Miracles. So you can see it's being held together by duct tape, and it is highlighted all over the place, and it's well loved, as they say. And it is because I refer to it every single day. I teach it, I refer to it, I practice it, and so let's just get into it. So the first thing I want to tell you about A Course in Miracles is A Course in Miracles is not a religion. It is not a religion. People from all religions and no religions practice A Course in Miracles. You know, Marianne Williamson is actually Jewish, and she practices it. You know, Christians practice it, and people that don't follow any organized religion can follow the principles of A Course in Miracles. So let's talk about it. A Course in Miracles is a spiritual mind training. It works very much on our psychology so that we can end up finding the inner peace that we know we have. A Course in Miracles is really a non-duality teaching, meaning that non-duality is all about there is only love, there is only God, there is only peace. Everything that is not of that is an illusion. Now, I know that that's really hard to accept when you look around and you see wars and you see arguments and you see craziness in the world. From a Course in Miracles point of view, what we're trying to do is we're trying to see that all of those things are projections of our own making. All of those things are projections of our own making from what the Course would call the ego, or the egoic mind. All of us have an egoic mind, that is for sure. And what the Course is trying to help us do is to actually, when you have an ego mind, and then you have your true self, which is yourself that's always connected to love, always connected to God, and is never, ever, ever split. What we're trying to do in the Course in Miracles, what's helping us to do, is start to little by little by little shift us so that we have the real experience of peace. It has one goal, and that's true inner peace. And I don't know who would ever argue with that goal, the goal of true inner peace. And that is why you come to something like the Course in Miracles. And I will say, the Course in Miracles is not for everyone. It's definitely not for everybody. But if you feel a pull towards it, like many people do, I would suggest that you keep following it. Keep following, because there's a lot in here. There is a lot in this book, obviously. Now, the book is separated in basically 3 main sections. There's a text at the beginning, and then there's the workbook for students in the middle, and then there's something called the manual for teachers. So the text is very dense, and it's amazing. It's incredible, and it will change all your perceptions. What we're trying to do is change perception, right? Because one of the biggest things in the Course in Miracles is that we're taught that we're giving everything the meaning it has for us. So if we can change the meaning, that's a miracle. When we have a shift in our perception, that's a miracle. When someone that used to be an enemy, you now see through the eyes and the heart of love, that's a miracle. There's a lot of principles of miracles, but the main one for our purposes today is that it's all about shifting your perception. And I know that you know that, but what the Course in Miracles does, by doing the lessons of the workbook, you slowly start to see the world, yourself, your family, situations, negativity, all that stuff. It all starts to change. And it's so beautifully done. It's 365 lessons in the workbook. So every day you're asked to just read the lesson. That's all you're asked to do, just read the lesson. You're not asked to do anything about it, but there are instructions in each lesson. But the beauty of A Course in Miracles in the workbook is that before you even know it, you start to have a different relationship to everything. Because it's changing everything that you see, because it's changing you, because you are the seer. Do you understand? Because you are the seer, you're seeing things very differently. Where once you saw evil and insanity and craziness, you can still see it, but you're seeing it from a completely different point of view. You're over here now, you're not here in it. It helps you to have real objectivity so you don't lose the truth of who you are, which is your connection with God, Source, love, okay? That is the main objective of A Course in Miracles, is to help us to have peace by understanding that we can either extend in love or project with the ego. Now, let me say this about the ego, because the ego comes up quite a bit in A Course in Miracles. I want you to think of the ego is the part of you, the part of us, that thinks without love. Take a deep breath. And if you really start to look at your thoughts, you really start to look at your perceptions, you really start to look at how you see yourself, this is really important, you're like, wow, I'm looking through the eyes of judgment. I'm looking through the eyes of vengeance. I'm looking through the eyes of inadequacy. I'm looking through the eyes of guilt. I'm looking through the eyes of anger. I'm looking through the eyes, does that make sense? But when are you looking through the eyes of love? Right? Love is the most powerful source and vibration that there is. And so in A Course in Miracles, you're taught to keep looking at your enemy through the eyes of love. Look at yourself through the eyes of love. Because as you see yourself, you will see outside, right? You think you are screwed up, you're going to see all screwed up people around you. In that way, it is very law of attraction. Because your perceptions are dictating everything that you see. we can't go into, in future videos, we're gonna break down some principles, but in this video, I'm giving you an overview, okay? And please, if you have experience or questions with the Course in Miracles, because a lot of people do, and this is the God's honest truth. So many people come to me because I've been doing it for so long, and they say, oh yeah, I had that book, and I opened it up, and I couldn't do it, and I put it in the back of my bookshelf, and I never went back to it. But then something called them to it. That might be you. So really, truly, put in your comments down below, what's your experience with the Course in Miracles? And any questions, I'm completely open, and I will answer the questions below. Okay, so that's the overview of what the Course is, basically. Now, there's a couple things you need to know. One thing you need to know is that the people that follow the Course and have been working with the Course and students of the Course, we believe that this material is channeled by Jesus. You don't even need to ask me why, but it does definitely go into all of the Jesus story. But it's the Jesus story in a way that's never been told before. And it's the Jesus story told, and when if you get freaked out by me just saying that right, well, just hold on. Because it's done from a universal truth principle. It is not condemning, there's no dogma in this at all. So it's not like the Bible in that way at all. It's working with psychology. And so it's kind of like Jesus is saying, hey, you know what? This is what happened here, but this is, what they said here, but this is what I really meant. This is what you get over and over and over in there. Of course. And it does use traditional Christic or Christian terminology. And sometimes for some people that's kind of like it's hard for them to deal with. But if you can get past that and feel what it's doing to you and how it's shifting you for your spiritual awakening, if you can get past that, you will have an incredible experience. Your life will change. Your life will change. There's no doubt about it. Because you will change. You will change. Your whole relationship to yourself will change, right? So there's the Jesus thing. There's the Jesus thing. So Jesus is okay with me, and I think Jesus is okay with a lot of people. So it's like there's Buddha, there's Jesus, there's Muhammad, there's all the great, incredible truth paths and truth seekers, truth leaders throughout time, and Jesus is one of them, right? Okay. So if in future videos, or if I refer and I say he says or he, that's Jesus, right? So we believe that. Now, before we end, I want to tell you how it came to be. This is a huge document. It's huge. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of words in this, and it is detailed and huge. Can I say huge again? It's huge. It's huge. So I'm going to briefly tell you, because people say, well, if it's Jesus, then he write it, whatever. The short version of the story is that in the 1960s, late 1960s, early 70s, there was a woman named Helen Schuckman and a guy named Bill Thetford, and they worked at the psychology department at Columbia University in New York City, right? And they had to work together, and they did not get along. It was like oil and water, as they say. It was like rough. And I guess Helen Schuckman was a really intense person. And Bill was definitely more subservient. But they were in this place where they couldn't get along. And they got to this place where they had to work together, and something happened where they were like, something's got to change, there's got to be a different way, we have to figure this out. And something shifted. And Helen, who is a Jewish atheist, she went home and she started to have dreams. And she started to have dreams of a book, and the whole story is too complicated. But what happened was she came back and she started telling Bill, I feel like something's trying to tell me to write something. And he was like, what? He wasn't like, what? But what he did is he said, listen, well, why don't you just write down what it's saying? So you would think of this as channeling. Back in those days, they didn't talk about channeling, they didn't talk about any of that stuff, but she had this like, whoa, Whoa. So she got out those big old school yellow legal pads and she wrote this whole book out by hand. And she wrote it and wrote it and wrote it and wrote it. And in the morning, she would bring these to the office and he would transcribe it. And it went on for about 3 or 4 years, something like that. And finally, she knew when it was done. She knew when it was done. There's a moment in the course where she was like, it's done. And that was it. And as Bill was working on this, and they worked in the psychology department, remember that, he was like, there's something here. She didn't want anything to do with it in general. And he was like, this can help people. There's something in here. And he started putting it together and he started to put it together and, you know, use the old mimeograph copies and everything. And little by little, around upstate New York, they started to tell their friends about it, and he started to tell some psychologists about it. And then out in California, they got a couple of copies and they started to apply it to people's lives and their life, and their whole life started changing. They started becoming incredibly peaceful. Everything started changing for them. And that's how it came to be. That's how it came to be. And then it really took off, you know, I mean, took off in the 70s, in the mid 70s. And originally this was 3 different books. They put it all into one volume now. But that's how it came to be. So let's just review before we wrap up, because I want to keep you all day. The Course in Miracles is a spiritual mind training. It is not a religion. People from all religions and no religions can practice the principles of A Course in Miracles. If it is something that you feel drawn to, then I would definitely suggest that you check it out. And I'm going to be doing more videos, and I have more videos here already, but I'm going to do more in-depth ones. And it's a spiritual mind training, and it takes you from an orientation of fear to love. These are my first tattoos. Fear to love. And it develops your trust in who you are, and it completely changes your relationship with what you think you are, what you think you are. Because remember, the ego is telling you what you think you are, what you think you are. And so what it does is little by little, it starts to give you a whole new, truer relationship with yourself. So, like I said, we'll have many more videos on the Course in Miracles. I'll take out individual principles and we'll talk about those. But please, if you have questions about it or comments about it, I'm here for you. Put them in the comment section below. I'll definitely answer them. And look at my channel. There is Course in Miracles stuff already, but I'm going to do updated new ones soon. Okay? All right, friends. If any of this turned you on or interests you, then I'd encourage you to subscribe so that we can keep this dialogue going. And remember, today could be the best day of your life. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you later.